Tanse, I'm Krisanachkate. Welcome to APTN National News. Thank you for joining us. A woman has been charged with second-degree murder of a pregnant Inuk woman from Labrador in 2014 is back in jail. This after breaking the rules of her 30 days of unescorted leave. In a decision made last Friday, 39-year-old Victoria Leah Henneberry's unescorted temporary absences have been cancelled by the Parole Board of Canada because of her ongoing erratic behaviour and not following the rules. On February 13, 2014, Henneberry, along with her boyfriend Blake Leggett, killed 26-year-old Loretta Saunders, a pregnant Inuk mother who was trying to collect the rent from them. At the time, Saunders was a university student who was subletting her Halifax apartment to the couple. Henneberry and Leggett then fled and dumped Saunders' body in a hockey bag along the side of a highway in New Brunswick. Henneberry is serving her life sentence at a minimum security prison in Ontario. Just 5 days after his release from Headingley Correctional Centre, a high-risk offender in Winnipeg has been arrested. 52-year-old Marcel Hank Charlotte was arrested at the Millennium Library in downtown Winnipeg on Saturday afternoon after missing his curfew check. During his arrest, Winnipeg police found methamphetamine, which also violates Charlotte's court-ordered conditions. The Winnipeg Police Service says Charlotte has had a lengthy and violent criminal history, including a manslaughter conviction in a 1991 killing of a 2-year-old child for which he served a 6-year sentence. Charlotte has been charged with possession and 3 counts of failing to comply with his probation order. Sotina police in Alberta are asking for the public's help in finding the driver involved in a hit and run last Friday that sent 2 people to hospital in critical condition. The incident happened on the southwest side of Calgary at the Grey Eagle Casino located in Sotina Nation last Friday at around 8:40 p.m. This red Honda Accord was driving eastbound in the parking lot when it hit 2 pedestrians and then left. Police say the vehicle drove south toward 37th Street Southwest, and it may have had front-end damage from the collision. The pair were taken to hospital where they were listed in critical but stable condition. Sotina police are asking anyone who has information about the vehicle or was a witness to come forward. 2 people at a Winnipeg airport were arrested on 2 separate occasions after drugs were found before they got on their flights to northern Manitoba. On December 19th, the Manitoba Integrated Law Enforcement Team and Roving Traffic Unit arrested 32-year-old Kenneth Ross of God's Lake Narrows after they say he was carrying 49 grams of methamphetamine while attempting to board a flight to God's River. He was charged with possession for the purpose of trafficking and released for a future court date. Then on December 22nd, airport security says they found a package containing 67 grams of cocaine and 56 grams of methamphetamine in a package belonging to 30-year-old Tanya Okamau, also attempting to fly to God's River. She was charged with possession for the purpose of trafficking and released for a future court date. RCMP believe the drugs are worth $50,000 to $70,000. The Manitoba First Nations Police Service has appointed an interim chief of police following the death of a former Chief Doug Paulson. On Wednesday morning, fire crews were called to a residence in Portage la Prairie, which RCMP later confirmed was Paulson's. When crews arrived, the home was completely burned. Human remains were found, which are also believed to be that of Paulson's. On Thursday, the MFNPS appointed Inspector Jason Colin as interim chief of police. Colin has over 26 years of experience in policing, including 8 years with the Winnipeg Police Service. He is a member of the Norway House Cree Nation. Paulson is remembered as a tireless advocate for Indigenous-led cultural sensitivity policing. The Yukon Environmental Socio-Economic Assessment Board, or YESAB, has issued its evaluation report on the 25-year relicensing of the Whitehorse Rapids Generating Station. It's the first time since the assessment board was created that the station is undergoing a license renewal. Sarah Connors tells us how it went.
The Whitehorse Rapids Generating Station was built in the late 1950s and impacts the territories of the Kwanlin-Dun, Ta'an, and the Carcross-Tagish, as well as the asserted territory of the Taku River Tlingit. First Nations have long claimed the dam as a barrier to migrating fish, especially Chinook salmon, which have been in decline for decades. YesApp's report says the dam's fish ladder can block some fish from migrating upstream, and the dam's turbines can kill or injure fish. The board determined relicensing the station could have detrimental effects on Chinook salmon, aquatic life, and First Nations wellness. However, it says those effects can be mitigated with terms and conditions. YesApp's recommendations include finding alternative means for fish passage, like upgrading the fish ladder and developing a plan to reduce fish turbine deaths. YesApp recommended the dam's renewed license be in place for another 25 years until 2050. Yukon Energy said in a statement to APTN News it's encouraged by YesApp's recommendations and is reviewing its report and the proposed terms and conditions. The Crown Corporation's license is up for renewal at the end of May. It's now up to the decision bodies, the territorial and federal governments, as well as the Kwanlin-Dun First Nation, to either accept, vary, or reject YesApp's recommendations. Sarah Connors, APTN National News, Whitehorse.
On Friday, the federal and Saskatchewan Ministers of Health announced a new $40 million investment. This investment is set to help Saskatchewan residents access life-saving medications. Canada's Minister of Health, Mark Holland, and his provincial counterpart has signed an agreement at the Children's Hospital in Saskatoon to invest $40 million toward 3 medications for rare diseases. The medications will treat a rare kidney disease and 2 types of cancer. Saskatchewan is the 4th province to sign the agreement, following Alberta, Newfoundland, and Labrador, and British Columbia. Saskatchewan Health Minister Jeremy Cockrell says the new deal will support the province's drug plan.
The government of Saskatchewan is committed to providing high-quality, accessible health services and programs to our residents. And this agreement and this partnership with the federal government is important to the ongoing commitment of both the federal and provincial governments to improve access to innovative treatments, early diagnosis and screening, and coverage of these high-cost drugs.
APTN News recently told you about a new report that says the Alberta Energy Regulator has been underreporting tailing leaks across the province. We now have more from that report and the author and reaction by Jesse Cardinal from the Keepers of the Water. Here's APTN's Chris Stewart.
It took 6 months for ecologist Kevin Timoney to put 6,000 pages and 514 separate PDF files together, given to him through a Freedom of Information request. After reviewing data from tailings leaks from 2014 to 2023, mostly in the oil sands area, he found many inconsistencies to information reported to the public by the Alberta Energy Regulator, or AER. He found that less than 4% of 514 reported tailing leaks over the decade were actually inspected by the Energy Regulator.
They also made the statement that in all 514 of the spills that they divulged to the public, that there were no environmental impacts. None of the 514 spills caused an environmental impact, which of course that is also another red flag that doesn't make any sense in terms of the known science of tailings spills.
One spill was underreported by a factor of 100, with 4.5 billion liters leaked, and other spills just disappearing.
There were quite a few missing spills that they did not report. The 2 major ones would have been obviously the 2 Curl spills that were, making national news at the time. But also in going through the FOIP, I was able to determine that there were another 454 spills of tailings of one sort or another that were not part of the publicly available database.
Energy Regulator.
For Jesse Cardinal, Executive Director of the Keepers of the Water, a nonprofit with a mandate to protect the water and the environment, the new report was not a surprise. She believes drastic changes are needed.
The AER has failed for decades to responsibly manage the caretaking of the environment. So we need a different system, a different body that we can trust, because right now all trust has been lost with the Alberta Energy Regulator. So we need a system in place that also brings into account the First Nations who want to work in having balance and sustainability and diversifying the economy.
The Minister of the Environment was not available to comment, but his office gave a written statement which reads in part, Alberta's oil sands are one of the most highly monitored in the world, and there are clear mandatory processes in place to prevent spills and to respond quickly if unplanned releases do occur. It goes on to say, while Alberta's monitoring system is one of the best in the world, we expect the AER to do its job and manage these incidents in a timely and effective way. The Alberta Energy Regulator would not agree to an interview, but also released a statement which reads in part, the AER routinely conducts inspections to ensure that releases have been cleaned up and remediated in accordance with the regulations. Impacts to wildlife due to release of a reportable substance within the AER's jurisdiction must be immediately reported to the AER. It goes on to say, the AER routinely conducts release inspections to assess potential adverse impacts to the environment and wildlife, and to ensure that releases have been cleaned up and remediated in accordance with the regulations. Earlier this week, the province announced plans to double oil production. Chris Stewart, APTN National News, Edmonton.
We're always looking for your feedback or story ideas. Here's how you can continue the conversation. If you have a story you want to share, send us an email to news@aptn.ca. To read and watch our stories, go to aptnnews.ca. And you can also find us online on your favorite social media sites, including TikTok, YouTube, LinkedIn, and X. Follow APTN News to join the conversation and see our latest stories. When we come back, we'll bring you an update on that 3-month tax break from the Liberals, those stories and more when we return. Welcome back. Michif Language Revitalization just got a $15.3 million boost from the federal government. The funding is part of efforts to support the Federal Indigenous Languages Act and will be distributed by the Manitoba Métis Federation. Sierra Bettens has more.
We have approximately less than 1,000 Michif speakers in the province, and with the help of the federal government, we're able to give Michif language a chance to survive and to prosper.
On Thursday, Canadian Heritage unveiled $15.3 million in funding to the Manitoba Métis Federation over 5 years to help revitalize the Michif language. Talib Noor Mohammed, the parliamentary secretary to the Minister of Canadian Heritage, was in Winnipeg to share the news.
It's critical to ensuring that the Métis Nation here and the Manitoba Métis Federation are able to direct, to design, and to deliver the support for Michif language in a way that suits the people.
Andrew Carrier is the MMF's Minister of French and Michif Language Protection. He says the 5-year funding commitment will allow the MMF to support long-term programming.
There has been a lot of starts, or sometimes false starts, and completions, but we're never able to provide a full gamut of services because of the funding agreements. But with this 5-year plan, we have a good foundation that we're able to move forward in the preservation and promotion of Michif languages.
From Michif French spoken in communities like Saint Laurent to Southern Michif, which blends French and Cree, there are several dialects of the language. Noor Mohammed says there's been a 45% increase in the number of people who can carry a conversation in Michif over the past few years.
That shows that these types of efforts, these types of initiatives have a profound impact.
Carrier says the MMF is exploring numerous Michif language projects, including classes, books, and immersion programs.
Introducing the Michif language at a very early age through our own early learning childcare centers. And so we're working with the childcare directors as to storybooks in Michif.
At the MMF's 2024 Annual General Assembly in October, MMF Human Resources Minister Anita Campbell said the Federation is developing an AI model to help revitalize Michif. Carrier said that the project is still in the works. He says the MMF also hopes to unite elders and youth through language programming.
So we bring them together and they learn from each other, and we hope to inspire further learning opportunities through these gatherings.
The MMF is now accepting requests for proposals through its website from individuals and communities interested in developing Michif programming. Sierra Bettens, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
It's been nearly a month since the federal government's tax break kicked in on certain items like food and children's items. But new Nanos polling shows the Liberals' bid to woo voters by helping them save money isn't winning many over. CTV's Kamal Karamali reports.
We're about halfway through this 2-month Canada-wide tax break. Back in mid-December, the federal government had promised no GST or HST on essential items like groceries, snacks, and children's clothing. But new Nanos polling shows roughly 2/3 of Canadians interviewed by Nanos Research say the tax break has had no impact to their household finances, while 30% say it's had a minor positive impact, and only 3% claim it's resulted in major savings. When it comes to whether the tax break has changed how Canadians feel about the Liberals ahead of the next federal election, 60% have said it has had no impact, while more than 30% say it's made them less likely to vote Liberal, and only 7% believe the pause in paying some taxes have made them more likely to vote for the Liberals.
It only applied to certain categories, right? It applied to folks, who are buying toys and video games and diapers and snacks. Nice stuff, but that doesn't apply to everyone, right? It applies to certain groups. And that's why, certain groups found it useful, but, probably the majority of people, as per the data, didn't really find it useful, didn't find it a game changer.
The last day of the tax break is on February 15th. Kamal Karamali, CTV News, Toronto.
And here is the results of last week's web poll questions. Last week we asked, is Justin Trudeau's legacy around Indigenous issues positive or negative? Almost half answered at 48% he left a negative legacy. 30% said he left a positive legacy, and the rest were unsure at 22%. Next we asked, should First Nations that were underfunded for housing by the federal government be compensated? The majority voted yes at 59%, 34% voted no, and the remaining weren't unsure at 7%. And lastly, we asked, do you think 2025 will be better for you and your community than last year? Almost a split, with 55% voting yes and 45% saying no. Thank you to all who voted and took the time to vote. Stay tuned for our website, aptnnews.ca, for this week's all-new web poll questions. We have more stories for you when we come back in less than 3 minutes. Stay with us. Starting on the east, -3 in Halifax and Sun, Charlottetown -3 as well. Cartwright -2, La Grande River -10. Sunny in Saguenay at -7, Quebec City -6. Toronto -1, Sault Ste. Marie -3. Wawa -6, Thunder Bay -15. Sunny in God's Lake at -23, partly cloudy in Churchill -20. -25 in Princess Harbour, Dauphin -30. -3 in Swift Current, Yorkton -28. -25 in Stony Rapids, Buffalo Narrows -14. Rain in Fort McMurray at -4, Fort Chipewyan -6. Calgary 4, Red Deer 2. Kamloops 0, Campbell River rain in 5. -1 in Fort Nelson with rain, Smithers 0. -4 in Old Crow, Rock River 2. -11 in Wrigley, Wati -9. Sunny in Colville Lake at -4, Pawlatuck -2. Arviat -15, Well Cove -18. Arctic Bay minus 23, and Igloolik minus 24. This season of Canada's Drag Race is filled with representation, including 3 Indigenous drag performers who joined this season. 2 were eliminated, leaving 1 left to compete for the title of Canada's next drag superstar. Video journalist Rachel May sat down with the 3 queens who recently hit the main stage.
Part of me as an artist is I like to incorporate my culture as I know more about it and as it relates towards me. And I think it's also, regalia in our ceremonies and our colors and our names and all these things that I'm now having access to, I layered in.
Jaylene Time is a Two-Spirit Métis performer from Zagami and Anishinaabe in Saskatchewan and a 60s Scoop survivor. She shares her Indigenous culture through drag.
As a 60s Scoop adoptee myself, it is something that I've had to navigate in Truth and Reconciliation, and to be able to take ownership of my culture and really explore and navigate to find the answers of my history.
Jaylene was the first Indigenous queen to leave the competition in episode 5. In that same episode, Jaylene and Zana, a Two-Spirit Métis queen, had a viral moment. Zana shared their effort to reclaim lost culture after their grandfather was a victim of the 60s Scoop. Jaylene gave Zana a Métis sash.
Obviously, you could see, I was already upset. I was already in tears. And then as soon as I received that, I had my full breakdown, which just getting onto Drag Race, even that moment, I felt this kind of weight lift off of me a little bit, which was really nice.
In episode 7, Zana became the second Indigenous queen to leave the show. Zana said learning to overcome trauma and embrace their Métis culture made them proud to represent it.
I'm still presenting Métis drag. I'm still presenting Métis people, regardless if I match the typical aesthetic that people would expect of that. And my success is Métis success. My success is Indigenous success.
The Virgo Queen is an Afro-Indigenous drag performer still in the competition. For Virgo, incorporating indigeneity into drag has been a learning process.
It's been baby steps for me, just because I really want to make sure that I am doing it correctly and doing it respectfully.
Virgo said all 3 Indigenous queens have stayed in touch.
And obviously now Jaylene and Zana are really big supports, and already I've gained a broader understanding of my culture. I feel like I've already been more enriched in the culture.
New episodes of Canada's Drag Race air Thursdays at 9 p.m. Eastern on Crave. Rachel May, APTN National News, Saskatoon.
It's gold for Canada at the Women's Under-18 World Hockey Championships.
Back out to the point. That's Maynard Tiller, shoots and scores!
Canada took down our biggest rivals, the United States, with 3-0. In addition to the gold medal, Canada also undefeated throughout the tournament. Great job, Canada. And that's your daytime newscast for this Monday, January 13th. We're back again for your evening newscast. Make sure to join us then. From all of us at APTN National News, hi miigwech masicho. Thank you for watching. We'll see you again. Ekse.